Unveiling the Truth. What female inmates won't tell you. Subscribe now for more authentic crime tales. Remember to like, share, and engage with us in the comments below. The sound of metal clanging like thunder struck as the cell door swung open, revealing a scene that would forever change the lives of many. Inside a solitary cell in the Illinois Department of Corrections, the lifeless body of 27-year-old inmate Holly McCarty lay sprawled across the cold concrete floor. Signs of a struggle were evident, with furniture scattered and personal belongings discarded in disarray. It was the morning of September 1st, 2020, but what happened in the hours before would leave investigators and the community grappling with confusion, disbelief, and a chilling mystery. As the guards rushed to secure the area, the scene quickly became chaotic. What had started as an ordinary day behind bars turned into a race against time for officers seeking answers. Holly was not just another inmate. She was a mother, a sister, and a daughter whose life had been marred by addiction and crime. But the situation at hand hinted at far more than a simple tragedy. Whispers among inmates suggested that Holly had been in conflict with another inmate, fueling speculation about the cause of her untimely death. Who would want her dead?
And why?
As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered troubling secrets about the prison dynamics that would leave them questioning everything they thought they knew about life behind bars. Holly was not the only one with a story. The layers of fear and silence among female inmates began to reveal a bigger picture, a tale of desperation and hidden truths that had long been silenced. But as police delved into sinister possibilities, a crucial piece of evidence disappeared. Would Holly's murder stay in the shadows, or could the truth finally be revealed? To understand the full scope of Holly McCarty's tragic end, we must rewind to the beginning. Raised in a small town in Illinois, Holly was known as a bright young woman with a love for art and a vivid imagination. However, life took a turn when she fell into the grips of addiction. What began as an escape quickly spiraled into a cycle of destruction. Holly had struggled with substance abuse for years, leading her down a dark path filled with crime. By the time she was incarcerated, she had already faced multiple arrests and treatment programs, her life consistently derailed by the lure of drugs. She served a sentence for theft, motivated by a desperate need to feed her addiction. Away from her family, especially her two young children, Holly found herself in an environment that only heightened her challenges. Inside the prison walls, the environment was unforgiving. Female inmates lived under constant scrutiny, navigating complex relationships marked by alliances, rivalries, and survival instincts. As loneliness and despair settled in, Holly sought comfort in friendships with several women around her, but not all those connections were genuine or supportive. Tension among inmates was palpable, with rumors swirling about who held power and who was vulnerable. Holly's past made her an easy target, and she soon found herself caught in a vicious cycle. The first signs of danger emerged when conflicts broke out over trivial issues, petty thefts, stolen items, and even misunderstood comments. As Holly tried to steer clear of disputes, it was an uphill battle in an atmosphere rife with suspicion and jealousy. As more days passed, the fear began to settle in. The whispers grew louder, and Holly knew things were about to escalate. The stage was set for the fateful clash that would lead to her shocking demise. The day before Holly's death began like any other in the prison. Inmates shuffled to breakfast, their faces a mixture of resignation and defiance. Holly, still hoping to mend relationships in the unforgiving environment, had tried to maintain a low profile. But the tension was palpable, a storm brewing just beneath the surface, and Holly was unwittingly at the center of it. Disputes erupted over territory and respect. Holly had defended another inmate from an unwarranted insult, a move that ignited the ire of a group of women who felt their authority challenged. That night, raw emotions ignited a dangerous situation. As the lights dimmed across the prison halls, shadows danced along the walls, veiling the brewing conflict. In those dark hours, Holly sought refuge in her cell, hoping to escape the turmoil. But the very walls designed to protect were becoming a prison within a prison. Hours passed, and though the clamor of chaos echoed through different blocks of the facility, Holly became a target of rage from the group she had crossed. The night unfolded into a frenzy marked by shouting and physical confrontations. Despite the threat looming, Holly remained oblivious to the brewing storm until it was too late. Suddenly, her cell door burst open, and chaos ensued. Eyewitnesses later described the scene: a blur of bodies, fists flying through the air. Holly, caught off guard, fought to defend herself, but it was a hopeless cause. Inmates would later recount the haunting moment Holly fell to the ground, the fight leaving her lifeless. As guards arrived on the scene, the realization of what had transpired began to settle in. Questions swirled about who had instigated the violence and the events that led to such barbarity. What nobody could anticipate was the effect this murder would have on the entire prison and the intricate layers of secrecy that would begin to peel away. The investigation into Holly's death picked up speed as authorities sifted through the aftermath of her murder. Officer sentiments ranged from frustration to fear. Guards were aware of the code of silence among female inmates. They knew that many would hesitate to speak out, fearing retribution from their peers. Families were reeling from the news as rumors about Holly's final hours began to spread outside prison walls. Holly's mother, Linda, soon found herself back in a world she thought she'd left behind, one consumed by fear, distrust, and unanswered questions. Her heartbreak was palpable as she confronted the officers investigating her daughter's death, desperate for answers. "It wasn't just Holly," she said, her voice trembling as she recounted their last conversation. She was full of hope for her children. She wanted better for them. Law enforcement began interviewing various inmates, using joint tactics that included the promise of protective custody for anyone willing to give testimony. Little by little, snippets of information started to emerge. A group of inmates, having previously feared repercussions, began speaking up about the pack mentality that defined life inside. Through tears, one inmate revealed, "You can't trust anyone. If you show weakness, they'll come for you." As statements poured in, the pieces began to fit together. But as investigators chased every lead, they were met with resistance from other inmates, maintaining an unyielding silence that left them feeling powerless. Days turned into weeks, and frustration mounted, leaving Holly's mother alone with her grief while the case lingered unresolved. Just when hope seemed to wane, an unexpected informant reached out, claiming to know more about the events surrounding Holly's death than anyone else. With their identity concealed, this new lead came with a heavy price, raising the stakes for everyone involved. Would this informant come forward, or would the truth remain buried beneath layers of fear and manipulation? Months passed as the investigation into Holly McCarty's murder dragged on, leaving the community and her family in limbo. The quiet corridors of the prison masked an intense struggle beneath, a delicate web of alliances and betrayal among female inmates. With fear coursing through their veins, many continued to remain silent, unwilling to face the consequences of speaking out. However, the informant's promise set the wheels in motion. Under the guise of confidentiality, they agreed to share what they knew. Arrangements were made for a clandestine meeting outside the prison grounds, creating a sense of urgency and heightened tension. As investigators prepared to hear the first real details of the night of Holly's murder, they braced for both shock and revelation. The meeting unfolded in an abandoned parking lot, illuminated by flickering streetlights. The informant, their face concealed, trembled as they spoke of the moments leading up to the violent encounter. They described the dialogue exchanged among inmates, the pent-up anger, and how Holly's well-meaning intervention had spiraled out of control. "He didn't even see it coming," the informant whispered, tension tightening the air around them. The group was waiting for the right moment, an excuse to make a statement. This pivotal moment not only deepened the investigation but shifted its direction entirely. It revealed an alarming culture of fear, one that had manifested in a web of distrust and animosity. Piece by piece, the investigators could now form a comprehensive picture of the series of confrontations leading to Holly's tragic end. However, as the informant began to unveil names, it became clear that the ramifications of their testimony would extend beyond the walls of the prison. The implications of their words sent shivers through investigators and prompted a desperate call for additional security measures for other key witnesses. But just as hope began to rise, a shocking turn of events unfolded. The informant vanished without a trace. As the clock ticked down in the investigation, the question loomed large. Would Holly's death go unpunished, or was the truth finally ready to break free from the chains of silence? Months later, the investigation hung like a thread, with each passing week revealing new complexities hidden beneath the surface. The disappearance of the informant shifted the focus back to the prison, mounting pressure on law enforcement to begin rounding up key players involved in Holly's murder. Rumors of impending arrests echoed through the corridors of the Illinois Department of Corrections, raising vigilance amongst the inmates. Authorities had received numerous tips pointing to the identity of Holly's attackers, leading to a series of dramatic arrests in the following weeks. Names previously kept quiet began to surface, generating shockwaves through the prison system. With tensions reaching a boiling point, inmates were now forced to grapple with the fear of exposure. In a high-stakes courtroom drama, the trial began, and the truth finally clawed its way to light. Families of those involved gathered, octaves of emotion oscillating between hope and despair. Linda McCarty sat in the gallery, tears streaming down her face, clinging to every word spoken by witnesses as they began to describe the traumatic events of the night Holly was killed. The prosecution laid bare a multitude of evidence, including testimony illuminating Holly's last moments, standing firm in her convictions to protect a fellow inmate, only to meet a violent end. As each witness took the stand, the courtroom erupted with raw emotion, painful glimpses into the fraught reality of prison life. Then came a pivotal moment. A key defendant broke down on the stand, confessing to being part of a plot against Holly. The courtroom gasped as they claimed, "We thought she had to pay for what she did. No one was supposed to die. We just wanted to scare her." The impact of these words ricocheted off the walls, a haunting reminder of the inherent dangers that defined life behind bars. As they prepared to deliver their verdict, the prosecution banded together, determined to ensure justice for Holly. But as the evidence mounted, a chilling question remained. Would the truth alone be enough to ensure that these crimes would not fade into the shadows? As the jury deliberated, the weight of their decision loomed overhead, leaving the fate of Holly's legacy hanging in the balance. What would they ultimately decide? And would the community receive closure, or would anonymity shield the cold, harsh realities that lay within prison walls?